is I'd like to do an improvisation. Usually I'll ask you to give me notes. Well, this time, just it's in good faith. I am improvising. But I'm going to do an improvised introduction to a very, very, very famous Neapolitan song, Torna a Sorrento, return to Sorrento. So, that's me trying to pretend to be a singer. I'm thinking like Pavarotti or Franco Corelli or something, but I don't sing. It's just on the piano. So let's see what a little improvisation, and then I'll segue into the actual piece. See what happens. So. Just was listening in the car a little bit, so that, anyway, last time I played you that very long first movement of Beethoven, the violin concerto. So I do have something new. If I do the dreaded Franck, I don't know. But for sure I'll do this, is that I will play the second movement of that Beethoven concerto, which I did last time. So just to recap, you've probably heard this speech before last time, but Beethoven wrote his violin concerto in 1806, obviously for violin, right? And the first performance was sort of, well, it didn't go well. Everyone fell asleep. And the violinist noticed this. His name was Franz Clement. And he, after the first movement, which I played last time, it's 25 minutes long, just the first movement, he turned his violin upside down and improvised a country fiddle tune to wake everyone up. Yeah, Beethoven was not thrilled. And he refashioned it, he rewrote it as a piano concerto, which sort of got shelved also, because it was in the 1830s and 40s, after Beethoven had died. thanks to Mendelssohn, who did so many great things, not only that, Mendelssohn sort of resurrected the piece and made it maybe the most popular violin concerto, even now. But at the time it wasn't. But here's the thing, that the first movement and the second movement I'm going to play are very meditative. They're very calm, extremely calm, especially for Beethoven. We're always thinking that he's, I don't know, it's stormy, but this piece is so, it's just so serene. And I think that I was reading about it, that he wrote it right at the time that he knew he was losing his hearing. So you could look at it as a sort of a philosophical piece that he's accepting that, and I think that knowing that adds another layer to that calmness. It's not just calm and spaced out music. No, there's something going on under the surface. So the second movement is just, it's so subtle, it's so quiet. So that's why I thought I'd start with something a little bombastic from Naples. So anyway, this is the second movement of Beethoven's violin concerto. It's his own version for piano. Yes. And to make matters more confusing, I've added in the orchestra part. So I sort of my own little, because I don't have an orchestra with it. So Thank you. Because I come here so much, I always want to do new stuff. This brain doesn't work fast enough. But let's see. I'll try the front, and if don't judge me. It's last night. I just tried to figure it out. So I'll do the third movement, maybe a little bit. Let's see what happens. I may have to, cut and run with it, but we'll see. So I hate to do that and say that, but I just, I don't know. I'll talk about it after because I don't want to think about it. Okay, explain. So César Franck, this is. It's the second that really, the second movement, I don't know if I should do, you tell. The second movement makes me want to vomit. It's just so difficult, I don't know. And this is, well, I mean, well, thank you. I try. I don't mean to be a sourpuss here, but there's some pieces that sound very impressive, like a lot of lists. They're not really that difficult. But there's some that's just, so that's Alfred Cortot's solo piano version of Franck's Violin Sonata. I always tell people, it's not Frank Sinatra, it's Franck Sonata. So, and César Franck was Belgian originally, and he lived mostly in France. And you know that in France, they always make fun of Belgium. It's like an inside joke, but this is a weird thing. I think that when he wrote this sonata, it had to have been raining. Because Belgium rains all the time. But isn't that piece? It's got this gloominess to it, and it's beautiful gloominess. He was also an organist. That was his main profession. Franck was an organist, and sometimes I imagine the stained glass windows in those big cathedrals in Paris, but not on a sunny day. No, that's. Well, I don't know. Maybe I could try the second movement a little. Again, I reserve the right to, Okay. It's tricky, I don't know what to say. and at one other place before, this is it's new for me. I played it with a violinist, and it's one of those pieces. I'm not only talking about the notes. I'm talking about the content. It's so difficult, and like I played it somewhere, and someone said he must have been a very angry man. Well, sometimes I become an angry man playing it because it's so. It's just I don't mean to just complain, but it's one of these pieces that's just so. It's intense, and it doesn't let up. Not for, in the middle a little bit, but not really, you know. So okay, now it's all going to just be nice, light, fluffy things after this. And maybe next time I'll have the notes a little bit, you know, because it's one of those things that like you have to play it in public at some point. And I just been suffering a lot. Anyway, enough complaining. I'm half Russian. I told you we like to complain. So my mother's Russian, and so here's another French piece I've played here before. This is called La Cinquantaine. It's the 50th anniversary by Jean-Gabriel Marie, French composer, and it's from the same time as the Franck, the late 19th century, but it could not be more different. I mean, this is just and actually, some people told me where I played it, and it's not wrong. They said it sounds like something from Fiddler on the Roof. And I don't think it is. It's not klezmer. It's by Jean-Gabriel Marie, but it definitely it has a klezmer feeling. Here's another thing to consider. Maybe I play it in a manner that's klezmer-like, because A, I love klezmer, and B, all the violinists pretty much that I'm interested in, 99% of them were Eastern European Jews. They were like, you know, Misha Elman or Nathan Milstein, David Oistrakh. They were all mostly from what's the Ukraine now, which is horrendous things going on there now. But at any rate, it's just interesting. So that's the recordings I listen to and try to learn from. This piece, Yves Regitlis, who's my absolute favorite, I love him, and Misha Elman, you know, they played this with such charm. So I'm going to attempt to give it's a very charming piece. I picture here, I imagine a couple celebrating their 50th anniversary, and they're reminiscing, and there's some happy memories and there's some not so happy memories, but they're all sort of blended together. Laughter through tears, you know, there's that idea. So here it is. It's very different from Franck, you know, it's really. to go by country? We could do a few more French pieces and then go to different countries. Does that work? I mean, okay. It's not in, oh, yeah, it's okay. Not in historical order. I don't like going in historical order. You know why? Because the dates, I forget them. So here's another piece. This is from 1891. This is called, I've done this here before, several times. The Meditation from Thaïs, Méditation de Thaïs, de Jules Massenet. Trying my French. It's not very good, but I can fake it. And you can fake it till you make it. So this is from the opera Thais, and it's a solo violin piece in the opera. And I've told you this before, but the story of the opera, it's a little bit bizarre, like most opera plots are, but you know, it's opera, so anything's possible in opera. Thais is this young woman who lives in Alexandria, Egypt, during the Roman Empire. And she worships the goddess Venus, you know, Aphrodite, the goddess of love and all that. And there's this young man who's a Coptic Christian monk. I guess it's Coptic. It's the very early church in Egypt. Yeah. And he's given the job to convert her. And he tries to, but in the process they fall in love because it's an opera. You know, and there was some controversy at the time. Some people said this is really sacrilege, but other people said no, it's not. It's actually, religious love. I don't know. I'm not here to analyze the themes of the opera. I'm just going to play the meditation, the famous one. So, but I tell you this, I haven't seen the opera because it's not done much, or rather heard it, but you also see it because it's hard to sing, and I think only like Renee Fleming is one of the rare people who can pull it off because she has the range or something, and Thomas Hampson, but otherwise it's not standard fare. But too bad, isn't it? Beautiful piece. Maurice Ravel piece I've done here before because I have an update on the story. It's just, I don't know. It's funny, I think. And so the piece is called Pièce en forme de habanera, piece in the style of a habanera, which is, I've done it before. It's not only a tasty pepper or a habanera, but it's also a Cuban dance with a rhythm like this, you know. If you like Carmen, there's that's a habanera dance. So anyway, Maurice Ravel wrote this for voice with no words. It's played on flute, it's played on violin, that's how I came to it. And there's a piano arrangement by a guy named Daniel Héricourt. And I was a French pianist. I looked him up. He was born in around 1900. And he knew Debussy, he knew Ravel, he knew everybody. And that's all I'd read of the bio, because I was late. I had to go play in Greensboro. And I played, and I mentioned the name Daniel Héricourt. I heard a few gasps. I thought, that's weird. So this lady comes to me and says, you're not going to believe this, but Daniel and Jane Héricourt, both great musicians, they were my neighbors right here in Greensboro for like 20 years. I said, you got to be kidding me. She said, no, really. So I looked him up. He ended up at UNC Greensboro. And then I heard from some people that his wife, Jane, his wife was a few years younger than him, so she's quite active today, pianist, composer, And one person mentioned this to me. I was at a place in Greensboro. They said, give me your phone number. I'll give it to Jane Héricourt. She was here 30 minutes ago. Small world, right? Okay, so several months went by, and I was at CBS on a line that was never going to end. And I was kind of in a mood, And then I get this call from a Greensboro number, and I was sure it was some kind of spam call. And I decided I'll pick it up, why not? And this very distinguished voice says, Rob? And I said, yes. And she said, it's Jane Héricourt, and I'd like to meet you. Oh my goodness. Well, and I don't know, I was, can you imagine you're at the store and you get a call and this is Robert Schumann calling, or this is Beethoven, I want to see you. I was very, and I said the stupidest, I said, do you have my phone number? So, long story short, I went to meet her at her place, and it was just incredible. All the things, I've heard so many stories, and I think she's almost 90 now. And she gave me some books with his music, Daniel Héricourt's compositions, and I want to learn them. I told you I'm slow learning, but I want to learn. And she told me this story, which was really tragic, but also just an incredible insight into history, that Daniel Héricourt, as a young man, as a teenager really, he had a crush on Debussy's daughter. You believe that? That's the kind of, talk about small world. I'm sitting in Greensboro, and I was talking about this, and she says, yeah, so he went to Debussy's house to see the daughter, but his daughter was out walking, so he just had to spend the evening instead with Claude Debussy. Not too bad, right? But he was upset because he wanted to see his daughter. So, and Debussy said, yeah, she's out for a walk. So she came back home in the evening. She said, look, I really have to go to bed. I have a sore throat. The next morning, she died from diphtheria. It's just, but yeah, it's just shoo-shoo, his daughter. So just the stories and so many things, and that's why I figured I'd play this piece. So this is Daniel Héricourt. Jane is his widow. Daniel Héricourt arranged this Ravel piece. A couple of quick things about Ravel is a lot of his music like this. Yes, it's impressionism, but it has a Spanish flavor to it. He was Basque. He grew up speaking Spanish first, French second. So kind of explains. I played it somewhere. A lady said, you made me feel like I was in Morocco. I thought that's a great, it really fits with the mood of this song. excursion to a colder climate, Russia, I'm going to play this melody in E flat by Tchaikovsky, and it's a violin piece. He wanted it to be in the second movement of his violin concerto, but he decided to discard it basically and arrange it, just have it as a standalone violin piece. But it's absolutely beautiful. I think I did it last time, but it was really like raw. It's a little less raw, hopefully, than it was. So Tchaikovsky, I mentioned last time, Russian music. My mother, my uncle, Russian, they were always telling me, like, Russian music's got long phrases, long melodies. So did I show you this, the second concerto of Rachmaninoff, is the theme, one of the themes. Look how long it goes. It's still not over, the melody, right? The tune. It's still going. And then there's more. It's like you read Tolstoy, there's one sentence per one page. And it's like Russian people telling stories. It's the same thing, they don't end. I wonder, I don't do that though. Yeah. When I was little, I realized something about my father's from Virginia, going back 8, 9 generations, he's Southern. And we went to visit his town, Portsmouth, and we went to this event, and all these people gave up to give speeches. And I don't remember this, but apparently I went to my mother and said, "Hey, Mom, Dad's not crazy. They all tell long stories." It's the same thing. You read Faulkner, one sentence for one page. So you might, my two backgrounds, they're not too different. They like to eat and they like to talk. So maybe I think every human is just, yeah. And music is nice too, but the talking and the food is really good. Yeah. So, all right. checking the time. I don't want to keep you here forever, but I did start a little late because of the traffic, so, I don't want to better to do a little more than less, right? It's more, it's honest. Okay, so now I'm going to do a piece that one of my teachers who we lost a few months ago, Solomon Mikowski, he never wanted me to play. So Mikowski, his parents were Polish, but he was born and raised in Cuba. Had this wonderful accent that I would impersonate. He didn't think it sounded like him, but it does. I have to say, that's the one thing he was not right about. But he would always tell me, like, Buxton. I'm Robert Buxton, we call him Buxton. Buxton. You cannot understand this Cuban music. You have to be from Cuba. But a lady wanted me to learn this at another place in Raleigh, not here, and I started to feel really guilty, so I learned it. And I think I may have done it last time. It's the Malagueña by Ernesto Lecuona. And the interesting thing is, Lecuona was Cuban, but the piece is not a Cuban subject. Malagueña, it means a woman from Malaga, a city in the south of Spain. And it's known for its flamenco music. So really, it's a flamenco piece. It's more about Spain. It's as if Duke Ellington or Gershwin or someone like that wrote a piece about England. It's a Cuban guy writing about Spain. So, Spanish music's very interesting. It's a mix of things. It's, because it was Arabic, for a while. There's Arabic influence, there's Jewish influence, because there was a huge Jewish community in the south of Spain, Sephardic Jewish, and it's all mixed together, Spanish music. And then when it went to Cuba, it mixed with African music, West Africa, so Afro-Cuban music. Now this is not specifically Afro-Cuban because it's a Spain piece, Malagueña, but other Cuban pieces are. The Ravel, that rhythm there, that's Afro-Cuban, really, bum, 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 bum. So anyway, I'm not an ethnomusicologist, but it's interesting to trace these histories, I think. So here's Malagueña, which is it's a flamenco. It's emulating flamenco music on the piano. So, yeah, kind of noisy. César Franck took a lot of time. So maybe one or two short Southern gospel pieces. I do that. People say, what's the classical and then gospel? Well, the whole time I was growing up, my dad said, when are you going to play some real music? Because it's from the South, he plays guitar. So I figured, So this is one that Mahalia Jackson sang. And it's called Crying in the Chapel. She did it with strings. It almost has a doo-wop sound. I don't think Mahalia would have liked that. It's not really, I shouldn't say, but it's a resemblance to it. Also, Elvis sang it because Elvis really learned a lot from her. He admired her, and anyway, so I just did it also last night, so maybe some of the chords. It's a beautiful gospel tune. It's more soft, One more real quick. I've done it here probably a few times. Well, I'll give you a choice, actually. How about that? Okay. Do you want to hear a country gospel waltz called, what's it called? Wings of a Dove. Do you want to hear Joshua Fit the Battle of Jericho? It's a spiritual. Or another spiritual, He's Got the Whole World in His Hands. I heard Wings of Okay, well, Wings of a Dove. And then if you want more, I could do, but if you need to leave, please don't feel bad. I'm not holding you here, it's not detention or anything. It's just, So, I'll tell you about this. It was sung by a guy named Ferlin Husky, and I just remember very vividly my grandmother absolutely hated it. This song, because she was very proper, and she says to my dad, we were driving somewhere and this was on, and she said, what on earth is that? She had this Virginia coastal accent, and my dad said, that's Wings of Dove by Ferlin Husky, and she was silent, and she said, what sort of name is Ferlin Husky? She had the creeps from it, so anyway, Well, have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Yeah, next month. Every month. I'm here every third Saturday. Oh, thank you. I love to be here. I hope you keep wanting me.
I would enjoy it very much.
Get this thing to turn off.